Welcome back, my fellow agents. It is I, X7, your master of musical mayhem, and unfortunately, somewhat some master of mediocre movies. It's not really mediocre, but it's an interesting failure, maybe. Anyway, today is Friday. We will have 7 songs that you can vote on if you listen on or watch on Spotify. But we are talking about a musical, Xanadu, a big budget floppo from 1980, which is sad because there's a good idea here. Just the execution was not what it could have been. So we're going to talk about that. The movie's actually way more fun to talk about than watching it. Although there are some really fun stuff. There is some fun stuff in here that was very enjoyable, but a lot of it was, oh, they really needed an editor. It's too long by at least 8 minutes, at least, which you've heard me say, but this is from 1980 and it only runs 96 minutes. So, having said all that, before we get too much further into it, please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, and there'll be fun. There's fun stuff in this movie, so you're gonna have to watch it all the way through. But even if you don't, watch for 3 or 4 or 5 minutes. We'd really appreciate it, and it helps the algorithm. Now, having said all that, let's roll. Literally.
Open your eyes and hear the magic.
Well, yeah, hear the magic. Our movie starts out with it's a Universal picture, and we see a very traditional, sort of traditional Universal logo. Starts out with the biplane, goes to I think that's supposed to be a Learjet, but it goes to a regular plane, jumbo jet, then a Learjet, and Gene Kelly. Obviously, our stars are Olivia Newton-John and Gene Kelly, and uh, uh, um, drawing the blank. Where's the cast here? Uh, geez, fourth build, Michael Beck is the romantic lead for Olivia Newton-John. But we have Xanadu, which was a hugely hyped movie in 1980. It was released August 8th, 1980, with a budget of 20 million and a box office of 23 million. And it was just panned by the critics. Now, I do think they're wrong. It's not a terrible movie. It's just not a very engaging movie for the most part. I mean, the music's actually pretty great overall, and the acting is decent. The star power is there for sure. Gene Kelly and Olivia Newton-John, and those are about the biggest stars we have there. But Michael Beck had just come off a big hit in from the Warriors from the previous year, which is a movie I love and considered reviewing tomorrow for Shaolin's Saturday, but unfortunately, I'm going to take a poll on that or something. See if anyone else thinks that The Warriors is a martial arts movie like I do. And really doesn't matter, but we're actually going to do one of my favorite martial arts movies tomorrow. Having said all that, Xanadu begins. We see a frustrated artist who's throwing his dreams away. That would be Michael Beck there as Sonny Malone. Those pieces of paper fly over to a mural. Now, in an earlier version, the movie was rewritten several times, and I don't think that helped it. And I don't know much about Robert Greenwald as a director. Let's see what I can find out what he's done here. Walmart, well, everything he's done is later on. I don't know what his first. Let's see if his feature length. He's done a lot of documentaries. This was his second movie as a director. Flatbed Annie and Sweetie Pie, Lady Truckers. Yeah, unfortunately, I just don't think that he was quite up to the material here. No slam against him because I have seen a couple of his docs and they're pretty good. Anyway, Sonny had painted this mural, and he mentions painting a mural as one of his gigs that he got, but he doesn't. It's kind of a throwaway line now. So here they are, and there's his paper. They bring these are the muses, of course, the creative muses from Greek mythology, and they start coming to life. Now, one of these muses is, geez, let me get down here, Sandal Bergman. She's the only name I recognize in there. Um, yeah, everyone else, this is their but they all come to life, and there she is. And unfortunately, this is not the best look for her. But she does a good job dancing for the most part. Now the others dance circles around her, literally, but they lead her along and they hide her. Sandy. They hide Olivia's. She's not a professional dancer, but she does a good job. There she is, flashing past the Hollywood sign. Hollywood. You can see that from Bronson Canyon, by the way, a place I've been. And I don't know how I got the picture of the bird flying in front of her. I don't know why. See, this is what I mean by the director and somebody, the editor, could have just used a different shot. But it doesn't last too long. She zooms up on Sonny, who's being morose and depressed because he's a starving artist, and gives him a kiss, and then he goes back to work at his old job for somebody named Simpson, who is played by, where did Simpson? James Sloyan, who we have seen in many things, but he's suitably sleazy here. He's been in Wonder Woman, Moonlighting, Quantum Leap, The X-Files, Matlock, Murder, She Wrote, and all sorts of other things. Buck Rogers, which he played Barney Smith, and several roles in the Star Trek franchise, Next Generation. He's a defecting Romulan. Anyway, he's a sleazeball here. Sonny's going back, and the gang kind of gives him his old coworkers. He's been there. He's quit to go out on his own. Couldn't make it, so he had to go back to pay the bills and eat some food. And I don't know if these women got named, but they're supportive of him. But there's Simpson, and he wants to. So Sonny is an artist, and he can embiggen all of these the posters. So you can sell them and hang them. You've seen them all over. Back in the day when LPs were a thing. I know they're still a thing now, but I don't miss the scratchiness and the skipping and the needles and everything. Sorry, and they're heavy if you get more than a couple, a dozen of them. So he's trying to find out this is the woman that kissed him. So now he's obsessed. He's got to go find her. And he's like, I didn't take that. I don't know. Here's the cameraman who I don't know. I didn't realize how risque those outfits are. So he's out on the beach, moping about again, and he meets this guy playing the clarinet. And that is, of course, the late great Gene Kelly, star of Dancing in the Rain and Singing in the Rain, Anchors Away, as Danny McGuire. And they become unlikely friends because there she is roller skating, which this movie did make me miss skating. I'm going to have to get those skates out and put on my outdoor wheels and take them for a spin, I think. But this is somewhere in LA, of course. Probably might be Santa Monica, but look at how few people there are here. Even in 1980, it's changed a lot in 45 years. This is its 45th year anniversary. How about that? So she waves at him. She doesn't quite say tee-hee, but I couldn't resist. And Sonny just goes flying off, or his stunt double goes flying off the pier into the water, and she zooms away. And of course, Danny's there, who doesn't really rescue him, but takes him out for a cup of coffee. And then as his buddy painted the guy's van, one of his few gigs that works, the guy's happy. So this is very dangerous. I don't care. I mean, unless you're a really good skater, but he's not even wearing any pads. I mean, there are pads under the stunt man there. You can see his knees are bigger than they should be, but man, drops him off at this auditorium because he's like, dun, dun, dun. And there he's dragging his toe stop along the ground, tearing it up. But now, he doesn't have his shoes with him in here, now does he? So he's walking around in his socks. And now I thought this was Olivia's skating double, and her name is Kira, or the one she gives to old Sonny here. but that might not have been her skating double. You don't see her face, which leads me to think that, rather than having their star skate around in the dark, they would just have a stunt double who would they wouldn't have to, has her own insurance. But we do get some shots of her. So now Olivia was probably in her 30s at this point in time, which isn't, she looks great. I mean, she was just a beautiful woman, and so she's born in 48, so 1932, more or less. It's hard to believe she's been gone for 3 years, almost 3 years now. And she was riding high off of Greece, from '78. So her star power was huge. She's adorable. She's just got a winning. I mean, she's just seemed like a very incredibly decent person, I must say, and lovely. Unfortunately, this material, and again, I don't know if she just the material wasn't very the script, the things she says, but now he wants to paint her, and they have a discussion with Simpson, and finally they introduce, because Simpson says go paint these pictures, these giant pictures, and they're hanging. Or he actually is going to hang the ones he's painted. So I'm assuming these are all fake bands that he's got back there. Except that's obviously they're supposed to be the Rolling Stones, or quite possibly the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And Danny takes him back to his place, which is this gigantic. He said he bought it from a silent movie star, so that's why it's a little ostentatious. There's bottles of booze, but he's got a beautiful room. But look who's on this album, a Glenn Miller album, and they share their love of Glenn Miller. And Danny says he likes rock and roll, but and probably did like some of it. So, and of course, he is really good. I mean, saying that Gene Kelly's really good is kind of an oxymoron, but he actually is able to make his material work. Uh, Unfortunately, Michael Beck suffers from. I mean, he was really good as a stoic, silent type in The Warriors, and saying what he needed to say and just keeping the same kind of look. But here he's supposed to emote, and it's just perhaps his acting ability hadn't quite gotten mature enough to do it. I mean, but he gets better. Both him and Olivia get better as the movie goes by. But some of this early stuff. So um, he leaves. They listen to some Glenn Miller, and he just keeps listening. Then he has a daydream, and look who's singing there. And Olivia and Gene Kelly get to dance together, which, if they'd have told me to dress like that, I would have, to dance with Gene Kelly, I'd have done it. And she does a tap dance routine, and she's quite good. And I would assume that, having him as a partner and probably coaching her and giving her tips and tricks, who's not going to listen to Gene Kelly, right? Then she startles old Sonny, and they go and got their skates back on, and she's got leg warmers on, pre flash dance leg warmers, which I thought wasn't a thing until then. This will come into play later on. So they're skating about, doing some magic tricks. This is in Simpson's studio where they record, because he's a record producer or something. I don't know what, but he's a jerk. But uh, so they got the wind going. They're singing in the rain. There's a train chasing them down, and then Simpson shows up and yells at them, and they run away. They end up at the auditorium here, and she's like, "Take a look inside." And so he does, and then because girl, and he brings Danny there, and Danny says, "This place, they used to have wrestling here," and they did. It's no longer extant. Look at that Art Deco, though. I mean, that's just a cool looking building, and it's sad that we don't get buildings that look like that anymore. So I do find Pan Pacific Auditorium is what it was, exterior shots, and it had indeed fallen into disrepair, but it's true. The Pan Pacific did. Xanadu's nightclub interior was built on stage 4 of the Hollywood Center Studios beginning in 1979. So the auditorium there was destroyed by a fire a decade after the movie was shot, so probably 89 or so, which, again, it's sad because I'm sure they put up a parking lot. It was LA, or, some kind of ugly big building. But here's the inside. It's full of junk. I mean, I mean, but they see how the things they want. We get a swing band, we get the tubes. They're not called the tubes, but that's Fee Waybill there, being the front man. Apparently, a lot of the critics hated this, but I thought it was a pretty cool number. We got the Boogie Woogie Girls, and there are the tubes, some of the tubes anyway, and they're singing. I meant to pull up the actual musical. The what is this? Yeah, let me get to the soundtrack here. Open a new tab. So the soundtrack's fun for the most part. I mean, there are some really ELO songs are pretty good. I didn't care for uh, the fall that much, and Olivia had adequate um, songs in it. But I like the Tubes, and because both band they have a meeting here, then they slide in together, do the jazz hands, huzzah! Because Cartman jazz hands. All right, so now Danny thinks that he's met Kira before, and she definitely looks older than Michael Beck, but they developed the chemistry wasn't really good in the first half of the movie between the two leads, um, Olivia and Michael, but they got better. It got better because they either got more used to each other, more comfortable, but it wasn't like that. It wasn't like Olivia and John Travolta. I mean, they had the I mean, the movie Grease was something else. So you shouldn't compare it to it, but I'm sure it did because this was supposed to be a big hit for her, and it was not, and kind of damaged She still had hits after this. The whole physical thing came afterward. A certain friend of mine who thought one of our geometry teacher looked like her, the weirdo. Yes, Lilith, it is that certain friend. So yeah, I had to do it. He's telling them he's quitting. They go. Now they're celebrating, and they kiss for the first time and turn into cartoons. The animation here, little animated thing. This is I forget which song this was. Let's see if I can. It's an Olivia. I think this is Suddenly the Olivia Newton-John duet with Cliff Richard. Cliff. Shame about Cliff. What about Cliff? You trying to be funny, Neil? Nope. Went to the young ones there for a moment because once in every lifetime. But the animation's nice. It's a nice little spot, and it's Don Bluth again. You can tell, and she turns into a bird wearing leg warmers. It's funny, and they end with the rose there. So um, Danny's hired a crew. He's going to go in all in here. He's must got lots of money, and we don't see Sonny everything ever again in the movie. So one of the problems to my viewing, to my thinking, is there's no real villain. There's no drama here. There's no conflict. There is drama, but there's just no conflict. There's no bad guys trying to stop him. Nobody's going to destroy the auditorium unless it gets saved. They're not putting on a show like Spiffy and Bessie would in a Judy Garland Andy Rooney movie. Andy Rooney? Mickey Rooney. Andy Rooney was the grumpy old man on 60 Minutes. There's no threat. There's no impetus to get this done, and believe in yourself. And so they're celebrating. There she is, still with her leg warmers on. Now they got to get Gene Kelly spiffed up, and this is all over the world, which goes on way too long. They could have cut this down, or they could have cut it something up, but it goes on and on. It's not gold dust, but it's 10 years, 15 years before gold dust would show up. Nice old dance number, and Sonny Malone, he does pretty well. He's not even as good as Olivia, but he's doing his best, and that's the important thing, I think. Then they end up dancing together. There he goes. Xanadu lights up. So they're talking. Now he's like, I love you, and I love you, but I can't be with you. So she tells him who he is, a muse. And this is where the movie gets fun. I mean, because he didn't believe her, of course. It's like, I'm a fish from Splash. But she says, look it up in the dictionary, and do you believe me now, Sonny? That made me laugh because he reacts wonderfully. And then she turns on the television, and the guys on the TV talk to Sonny, and yeah. there she is on television, and that's exactly those were the lines. And he's about to get shot, blown away by the bad guy because he's messing with her woman. Then she zaps out of there, and now he's all depressed. I'm not coming. Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, "Well, go." And Danny gives him good advice. Go find her. Maybe because if you don't, you'll regret it. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but now and for the rest of your life. Yeah, everything really does go back to Casablanca too, doesn't it? But so off he goes in his short late 70s, early 80s shorts and his tube socks and his, your humble agent may have had a pair of those or two of those shorts back then, but not that shirt. And he finds his painting, although it's not his mural. They don't tell him that, but he sees her and he just leap of faith and phases into it. And now he's somewhere else. So he ends up talking, and there she is. She tells him to get out before it's too late because no one's ever escaped once they're there. And he's like, I'm not going anywhere without you. So he gets imprisoned, and he's just some weird stuff. They have a chat, and then Zeus, or Heavenly Voice number one, played by Wilfred Hyde White. You've seen his son, Alex Hyde White, if you've seen the 40s or the 40s. He was in Battlestar Galactica and the 1992. Come on, oh come on! He was in. It's not even listed in on here. The Fantastic Four movie of 1992. I mean, you'd think he'd have been in there. He was Mr. Fantastic. So, but his dad's been in tons of things. I mean, just tons. You recognize the voice. They have a discussion. Then the second voice, the heavenly voice, played by Coral Brown. The Wikipedia says Nemosini. She can't even say it. Which is, I think, but if it's Zeus's wife, it's Hera, and she's like, "Let her go." And they have this discussion there, and that's kind of fun. This whole sequence is fun. Then they zap him out, and then she sings "Suspended in Time" for 4 freaking minutes, and it's just shot like that. So, I mean, they could have done flashes or something, but then the heavenly voices have another discussion and say, okay, and now.
All right, we have got to get you lazy boys out of these chairs.
Hey, whoa, hey, whoa.
You know, you should go outside and be with the three-dimensional people.
No, inside good. Outside bad.
You guys are so pathetic. Oh, Xanadu! Oh!
She's one of us now.
And now we have the grand opening. And as you saw, Phoebe watching it's the very end of the movie, which is ostensibly one of the better parts, although it goes on a little too long as well because there's no cutaways, no talking, no, saying, "Oh, we've saved it, we've raised enough money." Like again, there's no conflict, there's nothing to celebrate except for that. Okay, they're happy, and they put him in a regular tux after all of those clothes he put on. They put him in a tux, and he looks great, and he's skating. I'm sure he has no problem with his balance. This was his last movie, Gene Kelly's last big movie, and it flopped. And he was in several other things, but he passed away later on. So there's our serving girls, our servers. Everyone's doing roller disco with leg warmers on. Go figure. The roller disco was a fad that was tried after disco had already started dying, and I just never quite understood all of it. But there they are skating, and now Olivia's there singing Xanadu, or pardon me, Kira. She is the muse terpsichore, the muse of music, I believe. Let me look there. We'll find out for sure. Dance and chorus. So there you go. And she here's a shot, and I've seen someone do this, leaping over 8 or 9 people. It's pretty impressive. He's not wearing any padding either. Crazy man. But yeah, it's very extravagant. It's very over the top. It's a very late 70s, early 80s. I look at the clothes, the spandex, the just everything, and it goes on too long. Just And then you have all, it's just a bunch of dance numbers without any, cutaways to say, oh, we're having a great time, or, and I don't know what they could have done. But there's Olivia, and for some reason, dressed as, and these are her Muse sisters returning. They let all of them come back to Earth for a time. Some of them are singing, or at least holding microphones, but they're dressed in tiger clothes. So go figure. And then they dress as. Then you get a cowboy thing, because of course that cowboy movie, also Urban Cowboy, was a big hit. And I don't even know what this is, but they're all dressed in space age clothes, maybe Buck Rogers, but they change back into their Muse outfits. You didn't know Muses wore high heels and had leg warmers, did you? And then they disappear. And all of a sudden he's like, ooh. But he says, Danny calls over one of the servers, and look who it is. Aw. I was going to take that other picture out, but it's like, I just like to talk. So it's one of those things, like a touch of Venus, where, the goddess Venus shows up, and the guy falls in love with her, and then and then Zeus, or Jupiter, because it's Roman, tells her she has to come back, and then this woman Mystere who looks exactly like her shows up. But that's it. The end. Made in Hollywood, USA. So I liked parts of it. I know it's been turned into a stage play, right? Stage musical. And I've known a guy that's been in it. One B staying there. So I don't know that I kind of like to see it. And it's been he's done it several times, but I never did. So, my fellow agents, we did not listen to a bit of the freaking I don't know why that's not playing. Anyway, I'm glad we didn't. So we'll just take that out, and you'll see the trailer at the end. So that's our Musical Friday. There will be a choice of 7 songs on Spotify, but until our next assignment when we go to Shaolin, this is X7 signing off and phasing out like a muse.
Open your eyes and hear the magic. Universal Pictures announces the most dazzling romantic musical fantasy in years, Xanadu. Starring Olivia Newton-John, Michael Beck, and Gene Kelly.
Whenever you're away from me, wherever you go, you're never far away from me. Lover, I won't take a backseat tonight. Ooh, lover, getting on my 2 feet tonight.
Xanadu. It's a love story about a boy and girl from 2 very different worlds whom no one can keep apart. It's a spectacular entertainment that will transport you beyond your dreams. Xanadu, where time stops and the magic never ends. Xanadu.